Welcome back, everybody. My name's Rachel, and this is my book club. Why? I'm getting attacked. I almost died. And then we move on. Scary. Today we're going to be talking about Iron Flame. There was a lot of anticipation of this book coming out. Fourth Wing was super popular. If you want to see my video on Fourth Wing, click here or in the description, wherever I end up putting it. Go ahead and watch it if you want to be up to speed on what I think so far. But let's dive into the sequel, shall we? I really feel like a podcaster with this microphone, and I'm just gonna hope that it sounds good and that this is the right distance. It's kind of low. Can't figure out the arm for it, but that's a problem for next time. If you guys saw my very first video that I ever posted, I did do my very first book review / book club on Fourth Wing. Fourth Wing wasn't perfect, but I did really enjoy it. And one of the biggest things I've realized now that it's been a couple months is that Fourth Wing really got me out of a reading slump, which is one of the reasons I think that I loved it so much, is that it's the first book I had read and the first book I had binge read in a long time. And so even though it's not perfect and the sequel is not perfect, which we will talk about, I am just really grateful for the series for getting me back into reading. So I'd like to start off on a positive note because I do have some critiques about Iron Flame. So in Iron Flame, we're kind of following, year 2 for Violet, and you've got all the stuff going on. We've got Violet. She's not trusting Xaden after what happened at Ressen, which is understandable, and that takes up a lot of the content of this book. And we have Andarna, who isn't present for most of the book because she's doing her whole becoming an adult dragon by sleeping for a really long time kind of thing. And we get to dive more into Brennan. We find out he is alive at the end of the book, so we get to actually meet him and talk with him and build a relationship with Brennan and Violet in this book, which is cool. And of course, we're building up more dragon riding tactics. How are they going to fight the Venin? So on. So Violet is now in year 2 at Basgiath. My first thought right off the bat is Fourth Wing ends right after they are at the Battle of Ressen, after Liam dies and she wakes up in Erasia and all the stuff is going on. She is in the central land where the rebellion is being planned, and she just goes back to school. Why? I mean, I do get it in a lot of ways, but they kind of make a point in the book that it's because you don't want an unskilled lightning wielder riding a dragon in your rebellion. It doesn't really make sense. It makes more sense for her to try and go back and, pretend that things are normal for the sake of, they don't want to get the other professors and people in Navarre involved. And so they're trying to keep a sense of normalcy, and then Violet and the other marked ones can all build their skills and become more valuable assets to the rebellion. So that's okay, right? And Violet's going about her second year. And in the first book, Violet is constantly afraid of dying because everyone wants her dead. She's the general's daughter, right? And you'd think we'd solve this now that she's bonded to the 2 strongest dragons. But of course not. In this book, everyone wants Violet dead because Melgren is having everyone assassinated who was at the Battle of Ressen, right? They're trying to keep all this stuff on the DL by assassinating everyone at the Battle of Ressen. Scary. This aspect of it wasn't written very well. It was more of just another reason to have Violet always on her guard kind of thing. It could have been more interesting than it was, but it was kind of just here and there. It'd be I'm getting attacked. I almost died. And then we move on. And we continue on throughout the book, and it's very similar to the first book. As second years, they are helping, all the first years, they're watching the first years cross the parapet. There's more sparring. There's more of Violet struggling to stay on Terran during flight lessons, etc., etc. She's learning to wield lightning, etc. Very, magic school-esque, and pretty basic stuff. One thing I really loved about this book is that we get to see a lot more of her and her squad, which I really appreciate. I always love and appreciate a good tight-knit friend group, that good found family feeling. that good found family feeling. Flawless. Perfect. I love that. I was really excited to see Violet and Rhiannon and Sawyer and Rydok and everyone all getting a lot closer. That was really meaningful to me, especially because a lot of the characters don't have a lot of depth going into the second book. It's nice to see everyone kind of growing together a little bit, so that's nice. And then you have that whole plot point where Violet can't tell her friends the truth because she can't put them in danger, and they probably wouldn't be that helpful anyway. So whatever. And then you have our big turning point in the book. Violet convinces everyone to leave and go to Erasia. She takes all, most of the dragons and the dragon riders and brings them to Erasia after telling everyone the truth, that they can leave, that the Venin are real, that the Wyvern are real, and that they can be a part of it to defeat them and not be a part of Navarre's lies and deception and allowing innocent people to die and, the grand speech. And so a lot of these people leave to Erasia. What I thought was surprising about this is finally everyone knows the truth, which is like this moment we've been waiting for so long. It was actually driving me nuts. I was like waiting and waiting for people to find out. So finally we have this breakthrough moment. And what I'm surprised is that as soon as they get to Erasia, they're like, okay, how can we set this up so it's exactly like how it is at Navarre? So it's exactly how it is at Basgiath. And they set up the same classes. They have homework, I think. It's just very odd. And again, I get that they're trying to get everyone trained, on board, skilled and versed in what they need to be, learn the things that they need to learn in order to be both functioning humans and functioning in a war. So that's cool. But I was surprised at how we had this big breakthrough moment where everyone now knows the truth and we're kind of just going back to normal. They have some extra classes where they learn about the Venin and the Wyvern and the runes, which are pretty cool, but it doesn't really dive into that aspect of it that much. It's kind of just like we're back at a slightly altered Basgiath War College, which is fine, I guess. You guys have all read this book. This book has been very anticipated, of course. And so what I want to talk about is things that I really liked and things that I really did not really like about this book. Start off with things that I really liked about this book. We'll start off on a high note. One thing I really appreciated is that Violet gets to be really close with her friends. I loved Rhiannon in this book. She got a little bit of depth in the first book and she really builds as a person in the second book, and I love her. I think she's perfect. And I love Rydok and I love Sawyer. They're good characters. They're not a lot of character. They're a little bit one-dimensional, but I do like the dimension that they bring. I'm really happy to see more of Violet and her friends scheming and going to school and working together and doing these things together than it always being Violet and Xaden. As much as I love the two of them, sometimes it's nice to see a lot more people introduced. Speaking of characters, we have to talk about the Prince Cam. Eric Greycastle, right? I was rooting for him so bad in this book. I really thought when Cam got introduced that he was going to be part of a love triangle with Violet and Xaden. But it wasn't. I was so disappointed. Immediately when they introduce him, Violet's like, oh, he had the handsomeness of Dane, or he had the kindness of Dane, but the strength of Xaden. It's like the first thing she says, and I'm like, yep, here it is. I'm like, that's gonna be perfect. The worst part is the whole book I was waiting for something to happen to build a love triangle between them, because to be honest, for a while there, I would have much preferred for her to end up with Cam than with Xaden. Their whole thing they had going on through this book was dumb. I love Cam. I'm Team Cam. Next. Dane's story arc in this story, good. I liked his story arc a lot, actually. Again, it's nothing crazy, I would have loved maybe a little Dane POV in a couple of the chapters. That would have been cool, but he transforms a lot. And I got mad respect for Dane, actually, for doing the things he does, where he wants to talk to Violet and make up for the things that he did wrong. And he seems a lot more genuine, and he seems like he takes his friendship with Violet a lot more seriously. And, they start to kind of fix their friendship, and they work together on the wards, and it's cute. And it's like cute in a friend way. And I have mad respect for Dane for that. And it was in a way that I appreciate, and again, respect. I like the way it was written, and I thought Dane did a good job. Good job, buddy. And of course, the other thing that I liked about this book that I love in this genre in general is magic. The magic in this book is really good. I still love the way the elements play into it, and we've introduced runes, which is a different way to use magic on objects. And then we meet, the Griffin Riders, who are better at different kinds of magic. You have Kat and other people who are better with mind control, mind reading. That is the part of the book that I love. That's the part of the book that makes it so worth it, is being able to read about how different aspects of magic and how everyone decides to use it is used in this scenario. All in all, I was really entertained. I definitely think the characters that I did like and the characters that I did enjoy, along with the magic that's used and how much the magic is always kind of changing and evolving in these first couple books, really kept me in the book from beginning to end. Those were definitely my key positives. Now let's get into the part that y'all really want to hear, which is the dirt. Okay, the dirt. I have watched a lot of people talk about this book, watched a lot of videos, seen a lot of Goodreads reviews. Very mixed. It's a very mixed bag, as it should be. I'm gonna start off by saying that I think that Fourth Wing as a series should have just been a young adult / teen fantasy series. I think if Rebecca Yarros did her first fantasy series as young adult or teen romantasy, it would be perfect in that genre. I think it would be perfect, flawless in that genre. But I think the problem is that these books are lacking a lot of depth that you really need in a big fantasy war-ridden magic world. You need a lot of depth to get your point across, to make it entertaining, to be really immersive. My thoughts are that some of the biggest things that we're missing is more character depth, more world building. There's a lot of things that kind of seem like they're thrown in there just to add suspense. There's kind of some plot holes with some of that stuff. We don't need to get into all of it. It's a lot of little things that kind of add up to the lacking of the story. And I think that if this was a teen or young adult fantasy, that people would forgive it, because when you're younger, if I was 14, 15, 16 reading this book, I would have never even noticed. I would have been so enthralled in the story that I did love that I wouldn't have even noticed the other things that I didn't like. I think if we could just redact the rated R scenes and the swearing, and you just put that on a teen bookshelf, it's perfect. And that's the thing that sucks, is it's still a really good book, but it has just enough flaws that I do think it needs to be brought down a peg, just a peg or two. Let's talk more about the things that I think are lacking in this book. So one of my bigger gripes, because this is actually an important part of the story and it is a little confusing, is Jack Barlow coming back to life. Okay, we're doing some Qyburn resurrecting kind of stuff here. We've got, hints and throughout the entire beginning of the book that what's happening in there? What are they doing? Are they torturing people? What are they doing behind closed doors? And it's that they're resurrecting Jack Barlow. If they do not include more information on this whole resurrecting process, or if there's not some big reveal on, and here's why they needed to know how to resurrect someone. If there's not a reason behind them learning to resurrect someone, then it's pointless. Because at the moment, it seems like they just resurrected Jack just to make him the villain again, just because Rebecca was like, I need another bad guy. So they just resurrect him, when we could have just not killed him in the first book, and then we could have continued his storyline. I think the plot that goes along with Jack Barlow in this book is so intense. It's so good that the whole time he's been a Venin. He's been taking magic from the earth the whole time. Why would they resurrect someone like that? There are plenty of other options that they could have done, finding other Venin, finding other people to resurrect. There's, I don't know. I'm just thinking there has to be another reason that they needed to resurrect him, because I'm a little foggy on that right now. Loved the storyline that came with Jack Barlow being alive, but I think they should have just not killed him in the first book. Something else I did not like in this book, okay, and I'm really sorry. I know some of you agree with me, and I know some of you don't. I do not like Violet and Xaden's relationship in this book. It's annoying. It's a little bit irritating. It's a little bit like, 15-year-old girl has trust issues with her 16-year-old boyfriend, and neither of them know how to talk to each other because they're just whittle babies who don't know how to be in a relationship. And if there's anything that I truly hate in literature, it's the miscommunication trope. There is no worse trope in literature than miscommunication. It's one thing to be Romeo and Juliet and not be able to communicate with each other because like you don't have phones and you don't have, your families will kill you if they find out you're talking to somebody else, right? It's not like that. They can talk to each other a lot and they just don't because they suck. Again, it's another thing where it's like, I get it. I definitely think it humanizes them a lot and it does show their youth to kind of go through some dumb issues, go through some trust issues. Like, I don't think it's necessarily out of place, but it's overplayed and it's dumbed down and simplified a little too much for me, where it seems silly and unnecessary for a lot of the book, because for almost the entire book, they are arguing over nothing. They have the same argument like 8 times. Here is a quote from one of Violet's and Xaden's first arguments in the book, page 46. I'll earn your trust as soon as you realize you don't need full disclosure. Bleh. Gross. Disgusting. I literally read that and I was like, oh my god. And later, Xaden explains himself a little better, but this was like the point where I was like, you know what? Screw off, Xaden. I don't even care. And I desperately wanted Violet to move on just for a little bit, to just forget about Xaden for like a month. See, and that's where I thought Cam was going to come in. I thought that she was going to just try and move on from Xaden and be like, you know what? Forget you, man. I'm going to try and be with someone else because you suck. And I thought that person was going to be the prince. How dope would that have been? I think it would have been really dope. Truly a missed opportunity. Another thing that went on too long was Violet not sharing any information with her friends at all. Zero. I was starting to get really annoyed. I was like, for the love of God, please just tell them something. Like, the plot was actually at a standstill because Violet couldn't even drop hints to Rhiannon about what was going on. It's at a point where Rhiannon's like, Violet, I know something's wrong. Like, you can tell me anything or you can tell me nothing, but I need you to admit that you're lying to me, right? Opens the door for Violet to finally say something, to which she's like, oh God, I can't trust her. She could have dropped a hint. She could have been like, haha, I can't tell you, wink, wink. Come on. Violet's supposed to be this super smart scribe, bookish lady. She doesn't know how to drop freaking hints to her best friend. When Violet had finally admitted to Rhiannon and Sawyer and Rydok what was going on, the whole book changed. The whole feel of the book and their friendship changed. And I wish that would have happened earlier so we could have built more of their camaraderie with it, because that is one of the aspects of the book that I truly loved and I could have used more of. I would say my last kind of big gripe is just that the characters don't have enough depth. And again, it's the same thing where it comes from a place of love. Like, I love a lot of the characters in the book, and that's why I so desperately think that they need more, because I like them a lot, but they don't have enough. I want to know the characters more, and I'm not really being given that at this point in time. I like that we got to see a lot more from Violet's mom. I thought that was really moving. I like that. But the thing that sucks is the way that it's written is a lot of the times I feel like you only get to know more about a character. You only get more insight right before they either, stab Violet in the back or right before they die. The only time we ever learn anything about a character is just because something's about to happen to that character. Like, one thing is when we learn that Sawyer's crushing on Jacina, and, they're talking about, oh, Sawyer wants to learn sign language, and it's really cute and it's really sweet. He wants to talk to Jacina, whatever. I was like, Sawyer's gonna die. I was like, they would never give Sawyer another character trait unless they were ready to kill him off just to stab me in the heart. I really thought that that's why that was put in there, just to make me like him a little bit more before she killed him off or something. Luckily, that's not what happened. Thank goodness. So I would say those are my biggest gripes. And then, of course, we have to talk about how this book ended. I loved how it ended. I will say the shock endings for the series so far, very good. I'm mad at Xaden for taking magic from the land and being an idiot, because it's stupid and I'm angry at him for that. However, I think it does match his character very, very well to be so desperate that he would do anything to save Violet. I think that's very on par with the romance they've had so far. As much as I hate that that's what we had to do, and I'm kind of mad and I'm kind of nervous for how it's going to play out, I love a good twist ending. And obviously it has to work out between the two of them, there's just no way. So I'm very interested to see how that plays out, because again, that's a really good opportunity to build more on the world and on the venom. So that would be cool. But I'm still mad. So I have to read the next book, and that's the end of it. All in all, I still really enjoyed the book. I'm really thankful that I got to read this book. It was easy enough to read that it got me out of my book slump, and it's entertaining enough that I'm still gonna read all of it. I'm gonna have to now. Even though they're not the best books I've ever read, I still enjoy them, and I still enjoy them a lot. And I enjoy them enough to be really irritated at the things that are bad, but to binge read it in a couple of days all the way through. So let me know what you guys think of this book, and let's talk about what we're reading next. For my next video coming out in 2 weeks, I will be going over Divine Rivals. I've heard a lot about this book, and it was voted on Goodreads Best Young Adult Novel of the Year. And then the second book, Ruthless Vows, comes out the day after Christmas, so the 26th. So my video will have Divine Rivals and Ruthless Vows. And in 4 weeks from now, I will be doing Raiders of the Lost Heart. For the next book I will be doing in 4 weeks from now, I'm going to be doing Raiders of the Lost Heart. That one's just a romance book. No sci-fi, no fantasy on that one. It looks really funny. I'd like to read a lighthearted romance book. That just sounded kind of nice. So I'm going to be doing Raiders of the Lost Heart in 4 weeks from now. If you guys enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I will be seeing you guys in the next one. Bye! Stop bringing logic into an emotional argument. I'm pleasantly fuddled, but not entirely sloshed. I'm gonna use that from now on. Cool. I think that's all I got. Thanks. Love you. Bye.